Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here at Clemson Football at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. I am, as always, your host, Tiger Paul Craven. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. The college football playoff rankings, the debut of them for the 2024 season are out. We're going to talk a little bit about them, give you an injury update on the team, give our final thoughts on that unfortunate Louisville loss, preview Virginia Tech, all of that coming up and more tonight in the show. But before we get into all of that, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. Hit that like button for us. It really helps us out on these live videos. We're also on the road to 6,000 subscribers. We're doing pretty well, so help us out with that. Hit that subscribe button while you're in here. I know we're simulcasting on the Virginia Tech channel as well, so if there's some Virginia Tech people in here, get in the comment section, say hello. We'd love to hear from you and get your thoughts on the game and all of that stuff. And so we also have the Super Chat feature available for you guys, so if you'd like to support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, hit that Super Chat feature, and we will be sure to respond to your comment and answer your question during the live show. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, man? How you doing tonight?
I'm better. I guess is probably the word. When your team takes losses the way that Clemson took one this past Saturday, that initial night, usually sometimes it's like, okay, maybe if I just go to bed and I wake up, things will feel better. Yeah. They didn't. Sleep actually made it feel worse. But I've gotten through it, and as we've gone through the week, obviously the election with everything going on, it was a little distraction. It's weird. I actually used politics as a distraction from how poorly my football team played instead of the other way around.
Man, Clemson's down bad when we got to use politics to distract us.
Yeah, I know.
Football. Man.
Yeah, it is. We're down bad right now. But I've come out of it with a clear perspective on this team, the program, and there's still a lot of questions that I have, but I'm doing better. And I'm just excited to see how this team responds this weekend. Excited might not be the right word, but I'm interested to see how this team responds.
Yeah, it's certainly something to watch. Not only will Clemson fans be watching it, but I think a lot of college football fans across the country will be interested to see what the Clemson Tigers trot out onto the field this Saturday against Virginia Tech. Certainly going to be interesting. A lot of questions to be answered by this team going forward. We'll get into all of that as we go throughout the show tonight. Just because we're simulcasting on another channel tonight, obviously the Virginia Tech fans will probably have a couple in here. So just so you understand me and Jordan's format here on the All In Show, we have a planned portion of the show where we'll go through a series of topics and we'll discuss them. You guys get into the comment section, start chopping it up in there, talking amongst each other. And at the end of the show, me and Jordan will turn it over to the comment section and let you guys drive the show for the last portion of it, however long we have available after the planned portion of the show. So that's kind of how we'll run it. So go ahead and hit that like button for us. Get into the comment section. Get your questions. Get your comments in there. Virginia Tech fans, if you're in here, go ahead and let us know what you guys think about the game and what you feel good about Virginia Tech heading into this game against the Clemson Tigers. Hope everybody had a great week. I know you mentioned the election, Jordan. Glad that is over. I know we talked about it last week. We finally don't got to see political ads anymore on our TVs in between our college football games, although it might have been somewhat of a welcome distraction from the predicament, whatever you want to call it, that Clemson football finds itself in. But, certainly been interesting. We've been a busy week, but looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm ready to get into it.
All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the first topic of the night. And Jordan, We're going to kick it off with the college football playoff rankings. Obviously, this is the debut of the college football playoff rankings in the 2024 college football season, right? Heading into last week, we probably thought Clemson had a good shot to look pretty nice in these rankings. Obviously, Clemson checks in at number 23 overall in the college football playoff rankings. And really what that tells me, Jordan, is essentially without utter chaos of all the teams above Clemson, there's really no path at all, which we knew after that Louisville game that there was really no path to the playoffs. But you see truly what the College Football Playoff Committee thinks of the Clemson Tigers, what they think of our resume so far, which is not very good. So what were your thoughts on the number 23 ranking that Clemson received, about where you thought it was, lower, higher than you thought it was? What were your thoughts on that? And then some of the other rankings that may have surprised you throughout the top 25.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Clemson, it really just came down to resume. I mean, we've talked about it. I mean, that Louisville game basically it was your second data point where you played a team that had at least comparable athletes to you, and you didn't look good at all. You were at home, night game, all of that. You had everything going for you, alpha bye week. So, I think from the committee standpoint, it's like, okay, they're 6-2. So, I mean, we got to put them. We probably have to put them in there because, the record is top 25, at least just from the naked eye. But they have not looked good in either of their two losses at all. So, I mean, I think that's really all it came down to. I wasn't super shocked. I know the AP has Clemson at like 19. So, but I think 23 is right. We're probably about where they deserve. They're one spot behind Louisville, who I think might be a little underrated, but they have 3 losses, so it is what it is. But yeah, wasn't too surprised about Clemson. As far as the rest of the rankings, there were some interesting omissions, interesting placements. I know y'all gonna hate me when I say this, but I was actually shocked not to see South Carolina in the rankings at all. 5-3 football team. They have had some ups and downs this season, but especially within the last few weeks, they've been playing really good football. They're going to be a really tough team, to beat, come by the end of the season. I mean, they've been bolstered by their defense all season, but the offense is starting to click, as you saw against A&M. I was kind of surprised not to see them there. They really don't have a lot of respect for Pitt. As a 7-1, Power 4 football team, they're kind of low. They're sitting at 18 here. Let's see who else. I didn't have too many issues with the top 10. I think BYU might be as an 8-0 football team. They're kind of undervalued, but probably the strength of schedule probably factors a good ton into there. See, Iowa State. I mean, they just lost to Texas Tech, so I mean that's a pretty ugly loss.
Yeah,
but they had mostly been playing good football. I don't understand why Missouri's ranked.
That is one of the more puzzling ones that I saw. Just at first glance when you look at the college football playoff rankings, Missouri definitely stands out as a team that is kind of a head scratch. Like you're telling me that Missouri team deserves to be ranked over South Carolina, and believe me, I'm no South
Vanderbilt.
Carolina fan.
I know that Vanderbilt lost to Missouri, but
I don't care if South Carolina is ranked or not. But you can't look at the product on the field, especially South Carolina coming off that huge win against Texas A&M.
I think they play Missouri this week or next week.
They play them this week.
This week, yeah.
They play them this week, so they'll obviously probably get their licks in on Missouri and probably jump into the top 25 next week in the college football playoff rankings. But yeah, you mentioned Vanderbilt, you mentioned South Carolina. Both those teams I think deserve a spot over Missouri in the top 25. So that's kind of puzzling. I found it interesting, not that it's a huge deal or not that it matters at all, but Ohio State being over Georgia. And I get it. Ohio State's got a quote unquote better loss but Georgia's got a better win, in my opinion. Ohio State doesn't have a win to the caliber of, that Texas win that Georgia went in and did. So I think that was interesting to me, just to kind of mention something about the top five. But other than that, didn't really have a whole lot of issues with it. Everybody else, I think, is pretty rightfully ranked. As far as Clemson goes, I figure we would be somewhere between 20 and 25. I thought we would probably still be ranked, but I did not think we would be above 20. I thought we'd be in the 20 to 25 range. We land right in the middle at 23, about where I expected them to be. I don't think Clemson deserves any better than that. And I think they're rightfully ranked. I don't think they really deserve to be out of the top 25 right now. Like, I think they still are probably a top 25 team, at least right now. We'll see how they choose to finish the season. That remains to be seen. But, I see a couple comments in the comment section, and it truly is disappointing. Like, it's crazy how much can change on people's opinion of a team, on the outlook of a team, on the outlook of a season after just 1 week of college football. And as unfortunate as it is for us as Clemson fans right now, and as much as it hurts and as much as last Saturday sucked, this is part of what makes college football so great and so entertaining. And fans get so emotional and argue and talk trash about it. This is why, because stuff can drastically change from week to week. And Clemson's a team right now that doesn't control their own destiny. They need a whole lot of help. There's no path to the playoff for them. If you're ranked in the 20 to 25 range right now, you're not getting into the playoffs. I don't care what happens. There's just not a path really, in my opinion.
Unless Clemson finds a way to backdoor their way into the ACC championship game.
Yeah, that's the only.
They have to win it.
Yeah, you would need, and in order for that to happen, what? Miami or SMU would have to lose 2 games?
I believe so, because they both have, as far as common opponents, they both have a win over Louisville.
They both have a win over Louisville, and Louisville beat us. So we would need one of those 2 teams to lose 2 games. Look at their schedule. There's not 2 losses. There's probably not a loss for either of them on their schedule. There's certainly not 2 losses. No one would predict either one of those teams to lose two games going the rest of the season. So there's really no path other than, a complete meltdown by one of those teams, and Clemson backdoors their way into the ACC championship game. And even then, they would have to win that ACC championship game to get that automatic bid, because they would not be an at-large if they lost the ACC championship game. That ship has sailed. Your resume is not nearly strong enough. The only 2 teams that you played that could actually push back against you, you got utterly dominated by. So that's just the fact of the matter. It's not fun to admit. It's not fun to say. It certainly wasn't fun to watch, but we are where we are. And 23 is about right for the Clemson Tigers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we'll see how they respond this week. And that's what Dabo has talked about this week, is like they don't control their own destiny, but they control their choices and how they continue to play. So I mean, you just got to hope that this team is continues to buy in, because it's hard to keep that message going. I mean, when you think about the players that you've recruited that are on this roster, I mean they came here to compete for championships, and you've won 1 ACC championship in the last 3 seasons, and you have not been to the playoff at all. So like it's hard to keep that messaging. There's some seniors on this team that were expecting to, the way they responded after the Georgia game, you felt like Clemson was on an upward trajectory to build their way into an ACC championship berth and potentially a playoff appearance. But now those hopes are pretty minuscule, and so you have to. How this staff gets this team ready this weekend, and how they get them to just take it 1 game at a time so they can finish this year strong. And, that remains to be seen. And we just don't know what this team is.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly do not know what this team is. So that's it's an unfortunate thing, but it's kind of where we are at as a team and as a program right now. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later on into the show. But thank you guys so much for showing up tonight. We got 18 people in the live chat right now. I want to bring your attention to Mark Rogers' book. Mark Rogers has released his first book. It's called Disputed National Champions. You see it on the screen right here. That's the Amazon page to it. It's a $9.99 book. You can get it for 99 cents if you have a Kindle or something like that, to a digital reader. But essentially, he goes through and he kind of breaks down and talks about the 1990s and the national championships and the shared national championships and the decisions that were made and the swings and the big changes that kind of shaped college football going forward. The 1990s was a crazy time, shared national titles, lots of controversy, things like that. And he does a really good job of breaking it down and really diving deep into it. So if you are a college football historian and that sounds like something you'd be interested in, I encourage you guys to check it out. It's a great book. Here's the Amazon link right here. Just go into Amazon, type in Disputed National Champions. It'll pull it up. Should be the first book that pops up, and go check it out. Sorry, I'm struggling with these things right here.
Yeah, the StreamYard is always.
StreamYard is a mess. This stuff needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but it is what it is. Too bad we ain't got a producer like some shows, right? We can just sit on here and talk, and the banners pop up for us. But thank you for the 22 people in here right now. Hit that like button while you're in here. Really do appreciate it. Moving right along, Jordan. Who is Clemson? Pretty simple question. Not a simple answer. As you know, Clemson lost to Louisville last week. 33-21 was the final score. But that score looks a whole lot closer than it really was if you watch this team play against Louisville last week. We got dominated in the trenches at times. Our offense looked stagnant, looked confused, looked like they could not get going at all. The run defense was absolutely atrocious for most of the game. It was just bad all the way around. And Clemson started the season, right? Everybody can go back to the Georgia game where, we played Georgia tough for a half, and then, the floodgates opened in that second half. Ended up losing 34-3, 31-point loss there. And then we just rattle off a whole bunch of wins, right? And everybody was talking about, wow, this Clemson offense looks a lot better. The growth is evident. Cade Klubnik looks like a different quarterback. The wide receivers are getting separations. The explosive plays have returned to Clemson. And then Saturday happened. And it looked like we had gone back in our shell. It looked like we had regressed to the offense that trotted out there week one against Georgia. It looked like we had regressed and trotted the same offense out there that was the 2023 Clemson Tigers. So my question to you, Jordan, is who is this Clemson team? What are we going forward this season? So I'm going to pose to you a multi-layered question, okay? So first, I want you to outline what should Clemson's fans' expectations be for the rest of this season and this current state of Clemson, this current team that we have in 2024, after seeing what happened to them against Louisville, after seeing what happened to them against Georgia, somehow marrying that up with the domination in between those two games. What should Clemson's fans expect going forward for this season? And then once you answer that, we'll go a little bit more broad.
Yeah, it is a tough answer, really, because this season has been so weird in terms of the vast dichotomy between performances. You have the first week against Georgia where you couldn't get anything going on offense, and then The second half you got bludgeoned defensively. Then you go on that 6-game winning streak, and you're putting up a bunch of points and a bunch of yards, hitting explosive plays. Cade Klubnik is playing the best football of his career, but you're playing, bad to mediocre defenses, and you were doing what you were supposed to do, and that was one thing that we emphasized. I mean, well, you have to give credit when teams take care of business, and this team largely did. And of course, even during that winning streak, we talked about the lapses that this team was having defensively that we saw reared their ugly head on Saturday. And so it's really hard to, and then you have Saturday where you regress back to the things that we have seen from this Clemson team in previous years, plus a really poor defensive effort. And so now it's really hard to marry the two and figure out kind of where this team's actual baseline is. Is this team more closer to the team that we've seen against Louisville and Georgia? Probably, honestly, when you've played two teams that have similar athletes to you, or was last weekend in particular, was it just a blip? And that's not representative of what this team is against, non-top 5 teams. And so I think for Clemson fans, I think the expectation, just based on what we've seen, until this team proves that they can match that level that they played at during the 6-game winning streak against better teams. I don't think the expectation is that you win out. And that hurts me to say, because I think on paper, from a roster talent standpoint, you have better players than the rest of the teams on your schedule. But we just have not seen this team play up to its potential. So now for me, I tend to think that they'll play better this weekend, and we'll get into it. But I can't marry myself to the hope that this team just wins out the rest of their games and they go through unscathed. Like at Pitt, you still have to go. You still have to do next week. And then, of course, you play the Citadel. I definitely expect that to be a win. But then you have that home game against South Carolina, which at this point looks the most daunting of any of these games because they're playing at a really, really high level defensively. And you've shown that even against teams that have some issues offensively, you can surrender points. And, they're certainly starting to click on their offense as well with Lenora Sellers, a guy that can run the ball and pass. And so now I can't tell myself and I can't tell you guys that I think this team is going to make it through this stretch without another loss. So, I think, to put it, bluntly, 9-3. I mean, but with that honestly might be the not best case scenario, but close to the best case scenario, because I think this team has shown that they can lose this week and they can lose next week, and then they could also lose on at the end of November. And then all of a sudden you're a 6-6 football team. And wouldn't that would be one of the most epic collapses I think we've seen, or 7-5, because you would have that win over the Citadel, but you'd be a 7-5 football team. And that would be such a far cry from where we thought this team was, projected to be just last week.
Absolutely.
That was my long answer. We haven't even talked about the bigger picture, but for this team, you 9-3 honestly feels like it's like that might be pretty good, all things considered. But we'll see. We'll see. They certainly have the talent to win all the rest of their games, but we just have not seen them do it. So until they do, I can't with any confidence say that they're going to win out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you bring up a lot of good points, Jordan. And I think really for this team, you got to reset your expectations and you have to lower your expectations. I don't think this team wins out. I don't think this team is done losing. And as painful and hard for a Clemson fan as that is to say, I just think it's the truth right now. Because I have no reason to believe that all of that growth that we saw between the Georgia game and the Louisville game, I can't believe that was all real. I have to believe that some of that, at least some of that, was due to poor competition, bad defense. I have to, because the only two teams that you played that essentially could push back against you, you got dominated by. And I know everybody wants to bring up the 450 yards, but go look at when Clemson put up those 450 yards.
That was like all in the fourth quarter. I think you were sitting at like 170 something.
Yeah,
in the third quarter.
It started with a 6-minute drive where Clemson marched down. It was like 9, 10, 11 plays, whatever, block field goal. And then they march it down again. Another 12-play drive, another 6 minutes off the clock, finally punch it in. At that point, you were playing right into Louisville's hands. They wanted you to methodically, slowly go down the field and grind clock, and that's exactly what Clemson did. Louisville was letting you do that. You didn't suddenly figure out some things on offense. I don't believe you did. I think you were just playing in the Louisville hand, and they were more than happy to step back, keep the ball in front of them, keep you in bounds, keep you chewing clock, and just using the clock against you. And that's exactly what they did. And, yeah, you chewed up a lot of yards, and you put up 2 fourth-quarter scores, but at the end of the day, they didn't mean anything. So as far as expectations for this team going forward, I think throughout the season, probably even us on this show, we allowed those expectations to grow quite a bit of where this team could be. We thought this team had the potential of heading to an ACC championship game and then ultimately the 12-team playoff. All of that stuff's out the window. We already laid it out. In order for Clemson to get to the ACC championship game right now, they would have to have either SMU or Miami lose 2 games, because SMU and Miami both have wins over Louisville. So that's not happening. So you're not going to the ACC championship game. And without winning the ACC at this point with your current resume, you're not going to the 12-team playoff. So playoffs is out the window, ACC championships out the window, barring some crazy collapse by either SMU or Miami, right? So expectations going forward. And we'll get into this game, so I don't want to get too much into it, but I think Clemson will play pretty spirited this weekend. I think they will play with a lot of fire, a lot of effort. But I'm not comfortable saying this team is done losing this year. The only game that I'm 100% comfortable saying Clemson will win is the Citadel. The other 3 games, anything can happen. This Clemson team is truly showing that they are a middle to upper ACC team. And that's not good. That's not good. We thought that this team had a potential to have a spot in the playoffs, and that's not going to happen. They're not good enough, first of all. It's not even just the games that they've lost. They've proven that they don't belong in that 12-team playoff. We are not there right now. So going forward, my expectation is pretty low at this point. I'm going to be completely honest. I feel that we can lose any of the 3 remaining Power 4 conference games or Power 4 opponents that we have left on our schedule. We could go up and lose to Virginia Tech this weekend. That could absolutely happen. They can run the ball pretty well. Guess what? Our defense is not real good at stopping the run. We're allowing over 4 yards a carry on the season. It's not good. We got to stop making excuses for them. They're just not good. Pitt, you could definitely lose to Pitt, and you could certainly lose to South Carolina. They're playing a whole lot better, much better than we thought that we thought that was going to be a relatively easier game at the beginning of the season, but they've obviously developed. They've obviously gotten better throughout the season. They just got finished, beating up on Texas A&M. So I don't at this point in time, you don't feel great as a Clemson fan. But Jordan, I want to kind of flip it, and we've laid out our expectations for the rest of this season for this current team. I want to talk a little broad picture. This is a very popular topic in the sports media this week, whether it be mainstream media, YouTube, whatever the case may be. Tons of people are talking about this. They're talking about Dabo Swinney. They're talking about this Clemson program as a whole and where they are heading. Last national championship won was Clemson back in 2018, right? Trevor Lawrence. And then, it's there's been regression. There's been clear regression of the program. So, Jordan, a lot of the talk has been obviously transfer portal. A lot of the talk has been NIL. A lot of the talk has been coaching hires. A lot of the talk is, the way the program is run, so on and so forth, right? What are your thoughts on where Clemson is heading long-term as a program? What does it look like? How much regression has truly happened? And is there a path for Clemson to truly turn the corner and start climbing back up that mountain that we have clearly tumbled down?
Yep. Another great question, and another one with a lot of nuance. I don't want to I don't want to rant again. But I mean, the reality is, you asked how much regression has happened. I mean, it's been a significant when you're talking about in reference to the playoff years. I mean, this program is nowhere close to that level of play. I mean, the recruiting is not that much different, but the results on the field couldn't be any more different. Well, they could take. I mean, you could be Florida State, I guess, but you're not playing at a level that comports with the level of athlete and talent that you have on this roster. And so it's clear Clemson is no longer one of the elite programs in college football. I mean, that's been true for a few years now. But even more importantly, this program doesn't even feel like they are legitimately approaching that, or that level, or taking all of the steps necessary to get there. And we credited Dabo for making the coaching hires that he did, going out and hiring Matt Luke, Chris Rump, obviously Garrett Riley 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
But we're still not the level of play, the level of, I don't want to say the level of buy-in, because I still think most of these kids are pretty bought in.
Yeah.
Just the vibe around the program doesn't feel the same as it did from 2015, even really before that. And now we're at a point where this, your playoff dreams are essentially dashed, barring a lot of things falling your way and you taking advantage of it. But talked about how your recruiting class has been chipped away at. You had a nice addition with Jordan Young and of course Gavin Blanchard over the weekend. That was cool, but that also came with the decommitment of top 100 defensive back Grayson Littleton. We've talked about the issue, the lack of transfer portal usage, and I don't prescribe a lot of the blame to that necessarily. Although Clemson certainly could have benefited from the transfer portal over the past few years. Yeah. But NIL, I don't think Clemson is broke. It's a matter of philosophy with this program and how they choose to use their NIL. They don't. They honestly, in some instances, overemphasize roster retention and not enough in terms of talent acquisition. And so just all of these ancillary things that have just kind of they haven't completely cratered, but they've fallen to such a level that you are unable to get out of your players what you once were able to, at times with less talent than you have right now.
Yes.
So, I don't think that as far as the long-term projection of this program, I will never think that Clemson is going to be terrible. Like I don't think the way Clemson operates, I don't think they'll ever be a 6-6, 5-7 or worse type of program. I think they're always going to be, as it stands right now. I always expect them to win, at least 8 games. I feel like it would, but. And of course they have the potential to win 10 plus, but they don't. I can't project this team to ever get to that point where I feel like, okay, this is a true playoff national championship caliber team, with just the way they're operating. Something's got to change.
Yeah.
And I don't have all of the qualifications. It's ultimately up to Dabo whether he wants to make those changes. And he's been willing to the past couple of off seasons. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, well, you keep retooling season after season, but the results are still not getting there. So it's like, okay, well, what do you do? And because he's made the changes in the coaching staff, but as far as how he operates the program, there's still a lot of things that he has not budged on.
Yeah.
And so, long story short, this program is, I think they are probably a top 16 to 20 program, maybe top 15. Maybe there's not a lot of programs winning regularly 8 plus games, but not anywhere better and not too much worse. Probably that 15 to 20 range is kind of where Clemson is sitting as a program, I think, right now. And that's just not what the expectation has become here. And and that's not the expectation Dabo has. I know he doesn't like, losing the way he did this past weekend, but these are the results you're going to get with the way things are, the way things are right now. So didn't mean to go that long. I said I was going to keep it short, and then I did a whole doom and gloom spiel, but I think that's the reality. And it's been season after season. It's like, okay, we think we're, maybe Clemson, Dabo did this. Okay, maybe this is going to be the thing that actually gets it back, trending back upward. But then you have another disappointing performance, and all that momentum is gone. And then we're asking the same questions that we were asking last season and the year before that.
Yeah. And that really gets to the core of the issue, and part of what kind of makes this such a hard pill to swallow, this game, and kind of just taking a 30,000 foot view of the Clemson Tiger program right now is you do feel like that Dabo has gone out and made some really good coaching hires. You mentioned a Garrett Riley, you mentioned a Matt Luke, a Chris Rumpf. He has let coaches go that we felt deserved to be let go, but the results aren't that much different. And yeah, the offense ran off an amazing streak this year, but we can't sit here and pretend like it wasn't bad competition. And as far as the program goes, I don't know where Clemson goes from here. Best used to be the standard around Clemson. I don't know that it is anymore. And that's hard to say. And I'm not saying that the coaching staff there and the program as a whole, I'm not saying they don't want to win. I'm sure they want to win. But clearly, whatever you're doing, however you're going about it, it's not working. So the tweaks that have been made aren't enough. Something else has to change. And to your point, Jordan, we're not qualified to give you a blueprint on if you do this, that, and the third, Clemson football will be fixed. Here you go, Dabo. We're not qualified to do that. But we also watch a lot of college football, and we're also not stupid, and we can clearly see that there is massive regression in this program. The standards that used to be upheld in this program are no longer being upheld. And it's unfortunate. And what what makes fans so mad is that Dabo set this standard. So don't be mad at the fans for holding you accountable to the standard that you told us that we should have. Remember the first time Clemson went to the ACC championship with Dabo Swinney, and all the Clemson fans were going crazy and excited, and he was like, "This ain't the goal." There's where you started planting the seeds of expectations, right? And those expectations haven't changed. We went to 6 straight college football playoffs when it was a 4-team playoff.
The only program to do it 6 consecutive times.
The only program to do it 6 consecutive times to a 4-team playoff. So for at least 6 years in a row, we were a top 4 team in the country every single year. So to sit here and be like, oh, Clemson fans are so spoiled for expecting to go to the 12-team playoff. Why wouldn't we expect to go to the 12-team playoff?
The way you recruit, the conference you're in.
The conference you're in is an easier path. The competition you play is an easier path. Remember we talked about the 247 recruiting rankings or talent rankings at the beginning of the season, and Clemson was a top 5 roster in the country? They're still a top 5 roster in the country. Why aren't they performing that way? That's on the coaching staff. That's on development. And I keep talking about you can see depth is a clear issue with Clemson, specifically this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, right? You see every time Peter Woods leaves the game, the defense looks significantly different. They can't set the edge. They can't run defend anymore. They don't
have much of a pass rush.
They don't have much of a pass rush this year. They're giving up over almost 5 yards a carry on the season, rushing against opponents. That's not a Clemson defense. So there's clear regression, and I think and it's depth, because you have so many depth pieces leave through the portal every single year, and you're not replacing them with comparable guys. You're going to the high school ranks, and I love depending on the high school ranks. That's how you build a successful football program. But you also have to supplement. I do think Clemson's got to start supplementing through the portal to fill some of these holes. You see the glaring one that we could point real easily to, the low-hanging fruit, if you will, defensive end. It sure would be real nice to have a guy that, you're probably not going to pull the caliber of a Peter Woods, but you could have a guy that could come in there and take some significant snaps, specifically when, Peter Woods has been out for several games already this season, probably going to be out for a couple more. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you look to this recruiting class, and I'm starting to see even the recruiting starting to slip. There's starting to be regression within the recruiting. We were always a 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 8 to 12 is where we kind of hung out in the entire Dabo Swinney era as far as recruiting. Yeah, we popped for a top 5 class once, right? Outside of that, we were 8 to 12 every single year. That's where we hung out, depending on the year, depending on how big the class was, so on and so forth. Well, this year, how many top 100 recruits have walked away from Clemson's recruiting class? We've had 5 decommits. We have a tiny class. We lost our only quarterback. There's starting to be regression, not only on the field, now it's starting to go into the recruiting process. And you mentioned NIL. Clemson's got to be more aggressive in NIL. They just do. And I know it's a small school, and I know we don't have the resources of these big universities, but we got to figure out a better way to do it.
But the thing is, and that's my problem, because you mentioned it. It's like that's the excuse that we have always given about NIL here. And the thing is Clemson is pretty well funded NIL wise.
Yep.
Like, you see what Brad Brownell is doing in the transfer portal and in he's even upped his recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
NIL has played a major factor in that.
Look at Bakich.
Eric Bakich, the baseball coach.
Yeah.
Look what he's done in recruiting and in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
NIL has certainly played a factor in both of those sports. It's become a larger part. Hell, even Mike Noonan, our soccer coach, has gone in and gotten guys. And they're a top 10 team and they've won 2 of the last 3 national championships. Like, there is nothing special about I don't want to like. I get football is the moneymaker, and obviously the numbers are going to be more substantial. But
Yeah.
the reality is Clemson is not, they're Clemson's not broke. Like
No, it's
and
certainly not.
they certainly have the cachet to go and get guys that they feel like can contribute. I don't even mean going and getting superstars, because some of them go for those really extravagant a lot of them go for those extravagant numbers that you just don't really need to pay. And like, I'm not telling them to overspend, but the reality is you're more resourced than I think people realize. And it's more a matter of the man in charge in terms of his philosophy with how we've handled our NIL situation than we just don't have the money. So that's the most frustrating thing, because it's like, okay, well, if we were hamstrung like severely by with the lack of NIL funds, like and we just didn't have it, like, okay, well, what is he supposed to do? So like, but the reality is you're not struggling for NIL cash. That is not a problem the way that some people think it is. So I wanted to say that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I'll say one more thing, and then we'll leave it here and move on, because we've talked about this topic for long enough, and I'm sure everybody's tired of hearing us whine about Clemson football at this point. But what I will say is it's not unfair for Clemson fans to expect better. We should be a 10-plus win team every single year. We just should. And we should be vying for the ACC championship every single year. And we should have a spot in that 12-team playoff most years, right? That's a realistic expectation for this Clemson program and where it has been and where it should still be. However, we've pointed out all the reasons that we think the regression has happened. But I don't want to go. I don't want to. This program is heading towards a 7-8 win team year in and year out. And that's not what I want. And I think Clemson deserves better, and we should be better. And there's no reason we should regress to the point where, we're just going to random bowls every single year. But we'll go ahead and leave that there. We've talked about it enough. I don't want to beat a dead horse. It is what it is right now. There's obviously got to be changes, but those changes can't be made until the off season. So let's move on. Let's focus on this season and see what we got left. All right, guys, if you are into sports gambling, if you want to put a little wager on Clemson's game this weekend against Virginia Tech, listen to this message from our old buddy Mark.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, guys, you heard Mark Rogers there. Go check out the main channel, Mark Rogers, Voice of College Football, Voice of College Football Bets. Go check it out and let them know that the guys over on the Clemson channel sent you, and we greatly appreciate it. Make sure you guys hit that like button while you're in here. Got 33 people in the live chat right now. Help us out with those likes, and we would really appreciate that. Mark Rogers in the chat. Thank you so much for popping in here, Mark. Really do appreciate you. Thank you for giving us this platform, and the least we could do is promote the stuff for the Voice of College Football brand.
Absolutely.
All right, Jordan, moving right along, we're going to put a bow really quickly on this Louisville game. Not going to spend a ton of time here. We talked about it, I think, enough in the post-game live video. If you guys missed that, go check it out. It's on the channel. Me and Jordan do post-game live videos after each and every Clemson game. So go check out our thoughts on that. But quickly, Jordan, I know you've gone back and watched at least some of this game. I don't know if you could stomach the entire game, but you've gone back and watched at least most of this game. Any thoughts, any perspectives on, what the heck happened to Clemson? Anything that stood out that we didn't talk about in that post-game live reaction?
Yeah, I mean, it really was just a system failure. I mean, it's one of those games where you just kind of burn the tape because really nothing was good. Offensively, couldn't get separation downfield, a lot of underneath passing. I thought Cade battled, he did a great job of not turning the ball over with how many plays you ran. But he was late. He was late on a couple of balls. He wasn't perfect. But he was far from the biggest problem. Offensively, thought you didn't protect all that well, which was a little surprising. But there were moments where he had time to throw, but guys were just not getting open. I think the receivers were probably the most disappointing thing. Just not a lot of separation, and some of that I think is the play calls. Like you did not really do anything to make Louisville pay for manning you up on the outside and with a too high shell, like run the football. You didn't realize, okay, maybe we need to start running the football until you were already down 26-7. And so it was so frustrating. And, Kay Klubnik talked about it in his post-game interview. Like they didn't really, they were playing a lot of outside leverage and they didn't really do a lot to throw the ball to the middle of the field.
Yeah. How do you beat outside leverage? Run routes inside. Yeah. I don't know. It's not rocket science. It's pretty frustrating watching that kind of stuff. But,
it was just like when you didn't have success on that first drive running the football, it was like, okay, they just – Clemson was too quick to say, okay, I guess you're not going to let us run. And then it's like, once they actually said, okay, maybe we need to go back to it, and then we started having success, it was too late. And then Phil Maffa thought he battled his ass off. He played a ton of snaps.
Yeah, he did.
Kay Klubnik, I thought he battled too. Obviously, he played every offensive snap. So, but beyond that, not a lot positive to say about the receiver. TJ Moore had a couple of nice catches. Obviously, Antonio Williams caught a touchdown, but you didn't really do a lot to get him going. And other than that, you just didn't have guys get separation. Of course, you had the Troy Stellato over the middle, up the seam. Cade was late on that ball. That should have been a touchdown. So you had some opportunities despite some of the struggles, and you just didn't capitalize. That drive when you were up 7-3 and driving down the field, and on that third down, you have that tip ball that, for whatever reason, was it Tristan Lay or Marcus? I think it's Tristan Lay that caught it and put you behind the sticks. And it went from, I think, a 2nd and 8 or something like that to 3rd and 17 or something crazy like that. So that basically took you out of field goal range and forced you to punt the football, and then it was a disaster from there. And then obviously defensively, I think that definitely burned the tape. Just a disastrous performance.
About as bad as it could get.
Yeah, I thought secondary covered well. The pass defense was, continues to be honestly pretty good given your lack of pass rush, and the fact that you haven't been able to stop the run against really any of the competent offenses you've played. So just a ugly football game. And of course the special teams was a disaster. Couldn't punt the ball. I saw Aiden Swanson is second has the second fewest hang time seconds per punt in all of college, in all of the Power Four. I think it's like roughly. I had the stat up. PFF tracks it, but it is bad. It's not good.
The only surprising part of that stat is there's somebody that's worse than him at hang time. No offense.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bag on the kid, but he just hasn't been good this year. I mean,
No.
There's nothing else to say about it.
And then, of course, I don't even need to mention the blocked field goals, which, of course, we saw against Florida State, and it continues to be an issue. You have, for whatever reason, you have lapses in your protection, and it's a issue that has. After the Florida State game, we said, okay, that's not good. Well, we'll keep an eye on that, but hopefully, they're gonna, especially when you had it blocked multiple times,
right?
In that game, okay, that's not good. They need to fix that. That should never happen. But they'll probably emphasize that, and it shouldn't have. We shouldn't have to worry about it again. And then it rears its ugly head when you're already having a bad performance in the other two phases of the game. So, just burn the tape. That's ultimately that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, absolutely. Burn the tape, man. It was a poor performance. As good as the offensive line has been so far this season, I was really disappointed with them in short yardage situations. And I know some of that was Louisville doing timely run blitzes and stuff like that, and doing some stuff up front to confuse the offensive line. But I mean, in short yardage situations in that game, time and time and time again, we got blown off the ball. They reestablished the line of scrimmage, and we got virtually 0 yards anytime we were in short yardage situation, which is embarrassing. It should not have happened. It's unacceptable. I don't think the offensive line played particularly well in the game. I think their pass rush was, one of their more shoddy performances so far this season. You mentioned the receivers. It really truly is just a kind of a game you got to turn the page on. Everything went wrong. The special teams, unfortunately, I don't think it's getting fixed. I mean, why should we think they're going to fix whatever that problem is that teams are exploiting with our field goal team? Clearly, they're seeing something that they're able to exploit. Florida State was the first to do it, and now Louisville has followed suit with it. So clearly, it's something. I don't know if it's how they align. I don't know if it's how their blocking scheme, how it's being coached, whatever the case may be. It hasn't been cleaned up. It was a glaring issue in that Florida State game, a glaring issue in this game, and I got no reason to think they're going to clean it up going forward. So I got little to no hope that our special teams is going to improve throughout the season. We've already talked about our special teams, so I don't want to keep harping on that. But yeah. I got no.
Well, I'd also just real quick. I'd also wonder how much Nolan Hooser and his kicking. I haven't gotten any sort of clarification, or I don't know if he's kicking the ball too low. I mean, I saw some that was thrown out there. That could definitely play a part, but I don't know. Guys are. But either way, when you have a guy completely fall over.
Yeah. When you got a guy looking up at the sky when he's supposed to be in field goal protection, probably not good.
Yeah, that's a lapse regardless. So,
and you'd be like, oh well, Peter Woods was out, and he's normally in on that team. What is Peter Woods the only dude that can play on Clemson? I mean,
does he do everything? Like when we don't have him,
we without Peter Woods. Suddenly we turn into a bottom feeder ACC team as soon as
he's our fullback. He's a blocker on special teams. Obviously, he plays defensive end. He plays defensive tackle.
I mean, look, hey, Peter Woods is a great player, and
just throw him out there so he can run routes. Yeah, I mean, might as well. He's
the next Clemson fan, but dang, we got to stop acting like we can't win a game without Peter Woods. He certainly makes our team so much better, but I just seen that excuse out there, and I'm like, no, stop it. He's an elite player, but you got to have depth pieces. So I don't know. Special teams is a nightmare for Clemson at this point, and I don't see it getting any better throughout the season. Let's hope nothing comes down to a field goal kick, because boy,
Not anything longer than 30 yards.
You just know it's going to get blocked at this point. It's not even the field goal kicker. It's just that it's never going to get a chance to make it because it's not getting past the line of scrimmage.
Nope.
All right, guys, check out the Voice of College Football Twitter account for the best in rankings, ratings, analysis. Check out the Voice of College Football X page. There it is right there on the screen, just so you guys can see it. Go over there, follow the page, tell them the guys over on the Clemson channel sent you. Tons of information, tons of rankings, ratings, analysis, all that stuff over there. So go check out the Voice of College Football X page and let them know we sent you over there. That'd be great.
And right before we started talking about it, there it goes. The account tweeted out our show, so I gave it a like and a retweet. So if those of you that follow me on Twitter, you'll see it. Give the page a follow, because there's a lot. There's a lot that's posted on there as far as live shows within the Voice of College Football Network, and also analysis. And you'll see them in the comments of other college football pages giving the thoughts. So
absolutely, see picks over there, see all sorts of stuff over there, and most importantly, no off season. We are a year-round college football organization over here. So help us out, go follow, and we appreciate you. Moving right along to the injury updates, Jordan. Boy, it was a rough day for the Clemson Tigers on the injury front, specifically on the defensive side of the ball against Louisville this past weekend. Peter Woods goes out again. Obviously, Louisville was cut blocking a ton in that game. Looks like he probably re-aggravated that injury that was, from earlier in the season where he missed a couple games. So I think Dabo said he's day-to-day at this point. I don't know if he's going to be ready to go for the Virginia Tech game. Sounds like he could be, could not be, but we won't know until game time because they're either day-to-day, week-to-week, or out for the season. And Peter Woods is day-to-day. DeMonte Capehart, week-to-week. Seems like his injury is a little bit more significant, and he will not return at least for a few weeks. So he is week-to-week. Shelton Lewis is out. Probably for the season, Dabo said. He said he's got a similar toe injury to the one that Antonio Williams had last year, so they don't expect him back outside of maybe the postseason. So we lose Shelton Lewis for probably the season, and then Tyler Brown is still out, still nursing that ankle injury where he had the tightrope surgery. Don't really know if there's any timeline for him returning. Doesn't appear to be. So that's kind of the roll-up of the injuries for the Clemson Tigers. Any thoughts on who we got out heading into the Virginia Tech week, Jordan?
It sucks. I mean, the three names. I mean, these are three guys that have started for you a lot of the year, played a lot of snaps. Peter Woods, obviously massive. Hopefully he can go. But you're not going to have DeMonte Capehart, who's been the anchor of your interior defensive line this season, and Shelton Lewis. I mean, I've been complimentary, honestly, for most of the season of the cornerback play, and you just took a hit in your depth, which is still kind of questionable past, Ashton Hampton. Like you have Avion Terrell, Jaden Lucas, Ashton Hampton, Shelton Lewis.
That's kind of it.
We have not seen very good things when Brandon Strozer has been out there, and your younger guys are just not. They're not there yet. Obviously, you don't have Miles Oliver at all, and Corian Gibson is still coming. He's still coming along in a big way, and he's been. Obviously he was coming off an ACL tear, so you can't expect him to be ready to go necessarily. And you just don't have a lot of depth right now. And so now that's another loss And you're probably not gonna have him for the rest of the season. And I never felt like he was fully healthy this year anyway. So I mean, this wasn't that shocking. It just felt like Shelton was playing kind of banged up a lot of the year. Looked a lot stiffer than he did as a freshman, where he was really, really good in coverage. But even still, he's played a lot of football, a significant amount of football for you, and now he's out. So not great to have two of the three. And if you don't have all three on Saturday, the defense could be in for a long day, potentially.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Wish a speedy recovery to all of those guys. Hopefully they can shake back as soon as possible. I know Trey Williams went down in the game as well, but it sounds like he'll be okay and he'll be a full go this week. So at least we still got him. That's a big part of that defensive tackle room as well. So shout out to him. Hopefully he's feeling much better as well. Oh, no, go ahead.
I wanted to hit the super chat from Kuzi.
I didn't even know we had one.
I wanted to get through the injury and then get to it. Thank you for the $5. He says, "Hey, JoJo Pookie Bear, we're cooked. We're cooked."
Yeah.
It seems that way, man. It seems that way. We were talking about it last night, and he was telling me we were cooked. I was like, you should when we bring back the call-in portion of the show, when we get that going, I told him to call in. That'd be pretty funny. Yeah. But he dropped it in as a super chat tonight. So thank you, man. And
we definitely gotta bring back the call-in portion. See if we can get a couple people to come on here and give us their thoughts on the Clemson Tigers. Maybe we'll do that here soon. All right, catch Clemson Live on all your favorite audio platforms, wherever you stream your podcast. Check out Clemson Live. Search us, rate, review. All of our long-form content is on there, so go check it out. Greatly appreciate you guys there. Moving right along, Jordan, we're getting into the show deep tonight, so time to turn the page. It's time to preview this Virginia Tech team. Obviously, we're going on the road to Blacksburg, and going to take on Virginia Tech. Certainly a place that has a reputation of being somewhat of a hostile environment, right? Big-time entrance. They got some rabid fans up there. They really, are passionate about their Hokies up there, right? So Virginia Tech coming into this game. Obviously, they're 5-4 coming into the game. You remember they started the season losing to Vanderbilt. Everybody was making fun of them because, they were supposed to have a pretty good season. They were supposed to be one of the dark horses to kind of compete for that ACC title this year. Didn't end up being that way for them, but Vanderbilt obviously turned out to be a much better team than they typically are. So that loss doesn't nearly look as bad as it was or as bad as it did at the time, and it was in overtime. They actually have 2 overtime losses so far this season. They just racked up another one against Syracuse last week. Some clock management issues there. We'll talk about that as we get into the breakdown. Lost to Rutgers. That's not good. And then obviously lost to Miami, 38-34. Pretty close game. So those are their 4 losses: Vanderbilt, Rutgers, Miami, and Syracuse. What are your thoughts on this Virginia Tech team? Obviously, they're not the team that a lot of people thought they were going to be preseason, but this is still a very good football team heading into this contest against Clemson, and I'm sure they're going to come in. It's going to be a spirited effort. They're going to believe that they can walk into their stadium and put a whipping on Clemson. So what are your thoughts on this Virginia Tech team as we start to break them down and see how they match up against our Clemson Tigers?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this Virginia Tech team, I mean, they kind of remind you a lot of the team you played last week. Not in terms of like play style necessarily, but just kind of how their season has gone. They've had close losses. Their 4 losses have been by a combined 21 points. And obviously the 2 overtimes really stand out losses. And then you had the Hail Mary that was called back against Miami. So, I mean, this is your second game in a row where you're playing a team that, has athletes, the caliber of athlete to give you resistance. And of course, the two games we've seen Clemson play that kind of competition, they have not looked good. But this Virginia Tech team is I mean, offensively, it starts with them running the football with their dynamic quarterback, Kyron Drones. Tough to bring down. He's a big guy, but he moves really, really well. And, of course, Basil Tootin. Both of them have been kind of nursing injuries this week, but they have, from what I've seen, they have practiced so far during the week. So, honestly, it feels like they're trending like they're going to play. So could be it's going to be a tough task for this Clemson defense. But yeah, it starts with them running the football. They do have some nice weapons on the outside, but it starts with them running the football. And then defensively, I think that it starts with their defensive line. This is one of the better Virginia Tech defensive lines we've seen in a while. They've kind of been known for kind of their secondary pieces, but this year their pass rush has been pretty strong, led by Antoine Powell-Ryland. He on the edge, he's the nation's leader in sacks, or he's second in the nation in sacks. This is a really, really good defense. Kind of better against the pass than the run. They have had some leakage in the run game, but this is a very well coached defense that Clemson. They're going to do a lot to try and limit Clemson as far as explosive plays, and so if you see them kind of take from the Louisville game plan, they have the guys that are to do that and to win up front. So I think starting and emphasizing running the football for Clemson offensively will be a big point of emphasis, hopefully, this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is a tough matchup for Clemson, I think, heading into that stadium's going to be ready to rock and roll. I think it's a 3:30 kick, correct?
Yes, 3:30.
Yeah, 3:30 kick. So that stadium's going to be jacked up. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be looking to finally turn the corner and win one of these games against the Clemson Tigers. It's been a while since they've been able to do it. But you mentioned Basil Tootin, running back. The guy's having a pretty good season. He's approaching the 1,000-yard mark on the season, right? Averaging 6.7 yards per carry. I mentioned Clemson's defense and their inability to stop the run at numerous points in time this season. That definitely gives you pause for concern, right? I know you mentioned the injury that he's nursing, but if he's healthy, he could become a problem for the Clemson Tigers, specifically if Peter Woods cannot go and we're struggling to set that edge again. It'd be interesting to see what the Clemson defense decides to do. If they decide to make any sort of adjustments, bring in a third linebacker, Sammy Brown, to try to help set that edge and try to help stay that running game that Virginia Tech's going to obviously try to do. You mentioned Kyron Drones, over 1,400 yards on the season, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So obviously there's going to be a challenge for Clemson's defense heading into this game. I'm interested to see what adjustments this Clemson defense makes because of the performance we're coming off of. With that said, I do expect a spirited performance from the Clemson Tigers. I do expect them to play a bit angry, a bit pissed off, if you will. To quote Cade Klubnik on that post-game interview with Cade Klubnik, I don't know that I've ever seen him look that way, but he was not really interested in answering any questions from the media. He was clearly very upset, very angry about the performance on Saturday. Hopefully that carries throughout the team. Hopefully this team can get ready. Although everything that you were playing for prior to that Louisville game is now gone, you still got the rest of the season. You still got 4 games to play. You would like to see this Clemson team finish with some momentum and try to finish the season strong. And you got to go up there and be ready against this Virginia Tech team because you're going to get their best shot, and they can certainly beat you. So, switching gears to this Clemson offense, what do you think? How's this Virginia Tech defense match up against this Clemson offense? Are we going to see a similar performance that we saw against Louisville? Do you think that this Virginia Tech defense has the ability to do some of the things that Louisville did against this Clemson Tigers offense? How do you see this thing shaking out on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I mentioned, I think the emphasis for Clemson offensively is run the football. I mean, Virginia Tech has been the weakness of this defense. I believe they are 83rd in the FBS in run defense. And you have to commit, you have to commit, if you run the football and only get 2 yards like that, it's like, oh, you can't just throw it out the window and say, oh, well, we tried that, not going to work. Because I definitely expect Virginia Tech to try to replicate some of the things, at least that Louisville did to you,
right?
Because you didn't respond well,
mm-hmm.
And they'll have their own wrinkles and stuff. Yeah. But I think ultimately running the football and getting staying ahead of the chains and winning on first down, because that's one thing that this offense before last week was doing really, really well.
Yeah,
and just on this past Saturday, it wasn't going all that well until late in the third, fourth quarter. So running the football and doing a better job of getting the ball to your playmakers. The timing, I think, was one thing that was just really, really off all night on Saturday. So some of those rhythm throws, Cade has got to be on point.
Yes.
The pass protection, this is going to be one of their bigger tests in terms of pass protection, as I mentioned. So, I mean, they have to step up. Your offensive line has to step up in a big way. Your backs, your tight ends. You're going to need to, because Virginia Tech is going to make you work for everything that you want to get. So if you can do that, I think there will be opportunities. So you have to hit on them, and you didn't do that well last week. So yeah, I think ultimately that's the key to success, is establishing as cliche and as much of that sounds like coach speak. I mean, it really is pretty simple when it comes to this offense. They need to be able to run the football.
Yeah. Establish the run and stop the run.
They have the back to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the reality. So, they have some, they have a couple of nice pieces in the secondary, but I think you're going to need to run the football. And if you do, you'll be able to create some plays in the passing game.
Yeah, certainly. I agree with you there. All right, the voice of college, or the College Football Show with Mark Rogers, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go check it out on the main channel. Mark Rogers chops it up about college football and all sorts of stuff. Go check out the College Football Show with Mark Rogers, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, over on the main channel. All right, Jordan, we talked about Virginia Tech. We gave a little preview, talked about the keys to the game a bit. Now it's time to make the picks. It's time to talk about the spread and see how we perceive this game going. So let me make sure the spread hasn't changed here.
Yeah, I completely forgot. Was it sitting at 6.5?
Yeah, so it opened up at 6.5. It is still currently at 6.5. So Clemson minus 6.5. Over under for the game is 53.5. Well, it opened up at 53.5, down to 52.5. So over under 52.5. The spread is Clemson minus 6. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, been kind of going back and forth. Not in terms of how I feel about this game, but I think I settled on. I think this team is going to come out with a little bit more of a. I think you and I are both in agreement that this team is going to come out with some fire.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it'll be the most clean football game that they've played this year, but I definitely think that things won't be as disastrous in all three phases as you saw this past weekend. And I think you there's a path to covering and winning, but I just it's so hard for me to pick this team to do that because they have not passed that test in either of the games that we've talked about.
Yeah.
So I think Clemson comes out and wins. They play. It's not a perfect, clean effort, but they do clean some of the things up that they were absolutely dreadful at on Saturday. I'm going to go Clemson 35, Virginia Tech 24. I think Virginia Tech is going to create some plays because this defense is what it is. It is what it is. But I do think they'll be a little bit better in stopping the run. And that should be enough to at least get off the field more than you did on Saturday. But I think Virginia Tech is going to score some points because at this point, I feel like this defense is what it is. They're just they don't have they are not, especially with the injuries that you're going to be dealing with on Saturday. It's just hard for me to pick them to have a really complete effort. So yeah, I'm gonna say 35-24 Clemson. But I think it's a competitive football game. Virginia Tech they're going to be rocking that stadium is going to be rocking. Virginia Tech is one of the last teams in the ACC that Dabo Swinney has not lost to. Maybe I shouldn't mention that, but knock on wood. I think it's them, Wake Forest, and I think that's it. I think those are the only two teams left in the ACC that Dabo has not lost to. No, he hasn't lost to Boston College either. I think Boston College.
No, he hasn't lost to Boston College. Almost, but hasn't.
Yeah, he's had a couple of close ones.
Had a couple scares, but not quite got there. Boston College creeped up a couple times. Yeah. So really, how I see this game going is, I think Virginia Tech's going to score some points. I just don't trust this Clemson team right now. I really don't. I think they're going to come out with a much more spirited effort, but I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to go under 52.5, and I'm going to pick Virginia Tech to cover the spread. So I'll go 28-24. Clemson wins. So still picking Clemson to win, but a pretty close game. Obviously, 4-point game, just under that over-under of 52.5. Get you with the hook there, if you will. And obviously, Virginia Tech covers by keeping it within 4. This is a team that's played, Miami very close. They got a couple overtime losses. They're definitely a team capable of putting up some points and hanging with the Tigers. And I just don't know. I don't feel comfortable picking Clemson to cover any spread. I know 6.5 is not that many points, but at the end of the day, I just don't trust our run defense enough right now. I'd like to see what kind of adjustments they're going to make, whether they're going to bring in a third linebacker, what the thought process is there with not being able to set the edge, not being able to tackle as well as you're supposed to, not being able to fit those gaps like you need to. And it's been a thing that's been going on all season. It wasn't just the Louisville game. It just looked a whole lot worse in that game. But with that said, we'll see how this Clemson Tiger teams respond. We're definitely going to find out how bought in they still are. We're going to find out what this team's made of. I think it's going to be important for, predicting the rest of the season going forward, seeing how they come out against this Virginia Tech team. So certainly a lot of questions will be answered for either the positive or the negative, I guess, as far as how this team is responding comes out.
And our predictions feel like shots in the dark. Like if I had to put a confidence grade on a 35-24 Clemson victory, like I'm definitely on the more positive side based on what we've seen.
Yeah.
But I'm going off gut. Like it's hard for me to see this team playing that bad 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But we don't know. We don't know. So if I had to put a confidence score on it, it's probably like a 3.
Yeah.
3 or 4 at best. So I mean, this is a game this team could easily lose.
I'm a 2. I'm a 2 at best with my predictions for Clemson right now, because I don't know. I just don't know. Like I have zero confidence right now in what version of the Clemson Tigers is going to show up, right? And I believe Virginia Tech's going to come in here and try to get one. So I hope Clemson pulls out the win, but it would not surprise me if Clemson drops another game this Saturday. It just wouldn't. It would not. Hopefully that doesn't happen and our score predictions hold up, Jordan. Almost done with the show tonight, guys. We are coming to a close here soon. Keep in mind, guys, we do the All-In Show here every Wednesday, 8 p.m., right here on Clemson Football at the Voice of College Football. We also do a post-game live reaction to each and every Clemson game immediately following the games on Saturdays. So while you're in here in the live chat, please go ahead and hit that like button for us. It really helps us out, and it just takes you a second. And then consider subscribing to the channel. If you're new here, if you're a Virginia Tech fan, hey, we welcome you in here. You can stick around. You don't just have to be here for the Virginia Tech week. We welcome you year-round here. We do this show every single week. Excuse me, year-round. Like I said, there's no off-season around here. We talk college football year-round. And in the quote-unquote off-season, the part of the year where we're not playing games, we'll sprinkle in a couple other Clemson sports in there that we'll talk a little bit, but mainly Clemson football here on the channel and college football as a whole. All right, Jordan. BYOG or sell, the fan favorite segment. We'll go ahead and end the show with the BYOG or sell. We'll give one apiece, and then we'll turn it over to the comment section, see what they got for BYOG or sell, and then we will turn it over and chop it up with the comment section for a little bit, and then get on out of here.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. So BYOG or sell. I'm going to go a Phil Maffa stat because I feel like this game should be Phil Maffa heavy. So I'm going to go Phil Maffa. $150.
Oh, $150. He hit 170 this past weekend.
He did hit 170. He's only been under 100 yards twice this season.
Oof. Man, 150. That's a high number.
It is a high number. It is a high number.
You are going if my hunch is correct that Virginia Tech is going to try to I'm really interested to see how they play this because they might have the mentality that they're going to sell out to stop the run. Could be. So there are some. But I did mention maybe they take from the Louisville game plan, but on the other hand, they could also just try to stack the box and try to
let you run the ball.
Yeah. I'm going to sell.
Okay.
I'm going to sell because 150 is a lot, but I think he's going. I think he's going to get. I feel pretty confident in him hitting 100 plus.
Yeah.
But 150, it's okay. He's probably going to need an explosive run here or there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much do you run Cade Klubnik this weekend. We'll see. All of that factors in, and of course, how you factor in your other backs, Jay Haynes, Keith Adams Jr. So I'm not really. I think the potential is there, but I'm going to sell because I don't feel comfortable going that a number that high.
Yeah, it is a pretty high number.
It's hard to hit any week, but
yeah, I'm going to sell as well. I don't know that he quite gets to the 150 number like you. I do think he gets over that 100-yard mark because I do think Clemson's going to try to run the ball early and often in this game. At least that's what I think they should do. We'll see. and it'll also determine how Virginia Tech is playing them. But I will sell on the 150 as well.
All right. BYOG or sell? Clemson special teams does not surrender a long punt return or a long return, a block kick, or really just those two. Clemson special teams does not surrender a block kick or give up a big return. And I guess by big return, I'd say like 20 plus.
20 plus, yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm selling. I have zero faith. Like, I would love to buy, but I'm selling. I got zero faith in this Clemson special teams. It's just a matter of what mistake they're going to make this weekend on special teams. That's where I'm at. I hope we don't have to kick field goals this weekend, because if we do, I feel certain that Virginia Tech's going to block it. They're gonna hone the long loss Beamer ball and freaking block a kick if we have to kick one this week. So I will sell.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. It sucks, but they have, and Virginia Tech is a team. They pride themselves on, historically, they've been a team that prides themselves on special teams, especially under Frank Beamer. I haven't actually looked at their special team statistics, so that is something I probably should have done before the show. Look at me, all prepared. But honestly, it hasn't really mattered, because teams, how good the special teams you're facing is.
Yeah. If you don't have a good special teams, don't worry, just play Clemson.
Yeah,
it'll get better.
Oh man! All right.
All right, let's get a couple BYOGs from the comment section, and then we will move on to regular comments.
Let's do it. Let's see. We got one from Isaac Smith. He says, Isaac Smith says, BYOG or sell. We have one more field goal get blocked this year. Well, I'm BYOG on that one.
I'm buying. I'd put money on it. We get another field goal block this year.
Yeah.
I would put money on it. If that's a prop bet somewhere, somebody should bet that.
I don't know how many sports books offer that, but that would be.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know if any of them do, but if they do, you should go put some money on that.
Yeah,
they're definitely getting a kick blocked in the next 4 games.
Jay has one. He says, BYOG or sell. Clemson gets 2+ sacks on Saturday. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
I can't trust this pass rush. You're facing a mobile quarterback. He's elusive, and they use him a lot. They're also a run-first offense. They're not going to do a whole lot of.
Peter Woods might play, but he's banged up. Monte Capehart's out. Trey Williams is going to play, but he's probably banged up as well.
If it's not TJ getting to the quarterback, I don't know.
TJ Parker a bust at that point, I think.
Yeah.
Unless they bring a corner blitz or something like that. It's probably TJ Parker a bust.
And Kyron Drones is just.
Unless they go to a 3 linebacker look and bring Sammy Brown. He'll get a sack.
He's been a good when we've given him opportunities to rush the passer, he's looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But
which that'll be interesting with Shelton Lewis being out and him playing nickel so much this year. It'll be interesting to see if they go to a 3 linebacker look because of that. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do.
I wouldn't hate it.
It'd be something different to try.
Mm-hmm. John says, but BYG or sell, Stellato will be a big factor in the Virginia Tech game. He should have had a better game against Louisville than he did. I'll buy.
What he has. Let me look.
I don't know. You started Wesco, you started TJ, you started Antonio this past week. I think, especially with Bryant and TJ, I think they had a couple of. They have times where they don't get open, and it is really, I think it's because of their their release. They're still not all the way technically refined in some areas. And, with Bryant, sometimes it's, especially when teams are playing press man, when they get a hand on him, he's not really going anywhere because he's not very big and physical yet. TJ had some opportunities, man. He should have had a touchdown. He could have had not a touchdown, but a big pass down the sideline. A big play.
He had some drops in the game.
Jake
Brennan had some drops in the game.
Man, Jake was oh god,
he was
Jake
bad. That was
his worst game of the year.
That was a bad game. But yeah, I'll buy that because Troy Slaughter only had 2 catches for 12 yards. Yeah. I think he does more than that this weekend.
He did put out a hourglass tweet a few days ago that he deleted for. I happened to see it for a couple of moments. I don't know what it means, but that was
Gelato did.
Yeah, he did.
Oh boy. I don't like that.
I don't know what it means, but as far as I know, he's still practicing, still working with the team, but
that would not be good.
Yeah. All right. Last BYOG or sell, and then we'll go to regular questions. Isaac says, BYOG or sell. Sammy makes his first start on Saturday. I'm assuming Sammy Brown. So they're going to start Barrett and Wade. They're the most experienced, even if they're not always playing the best. I'm selling on that. Sammy has really he hasn't really logged more than 20 snaps all season.
Look, unless they're going to a 3 linebacker set, he's not starting.
Yeah, and I don't expect. I don't expect them to. I don't know what changes Wes is going to make. I don't know, but
something's got to change.
Something's got to try
something different because it's not working right now. It's just not. You're getting gashed far too often. Like you gotta schematically, you gotta try something different because clearly, what you're trying to do, the current personnel you have is just not executing it right now. So.
And one thing that I've been really frustrated with is I feel like you haven't been utilizing Barrett Carter the way that you have in previous years. I mean, obviously part of that is him stepping it. Like he has not gotten the opportunities to rush the passer that he did as a freshman, sophomore, and junior. Especially his sophomore and junior years. Like
there's big portions of games that like he just feels like a non-factor.
Yeah,
like, you don't even notice him on the field.
Give him an opportunity to get after the quarterback. Like it feels like he's always like in coverage.
Yeah,
or like I don't know. Let him play. They need to find ways to let these linebackers play more free because I think they're just not. They're lost. They're overthinking. They're slow in their reads. Like they need to find. Both Carter and Wade Woodaz were both at their best when they were just kind of flying around the field and making plays. But it feels like they haven't, especially Barrett Carter. He just hasn't been able to do that.
Those two looked way better last year than they do this year. I don't know.
It's been disappointing, man.
It has. It has for sure.
All right, that's going to conclude BYOG or sell officially. We're going to turn it over to the comment section. Hit on.
Yeah, we're going to turn it over to the comment section. So get your comments in here. Make sure you hit that like button for us. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Welcome the Virginia Tech fans to get in here and comment. And let us know, guys, also, if you would like us to bring the call-in show back. If you would like us to give you the option to call in, you don't have to come on camera and just, say your piece, ask your question, or make your statement, whatever you want to do. Let us know, and we'll certainly be willing to bring that back.
Yep. Tiger Tom says somehow the offense has slipped into some kind of uncoached, disconnected procedural quicksand, wherein a total O-line implosion has occurred. What is it? Well, I don't think the offensive line has been the biggest thing. I think honestly, I mean, as much as we pay Garrett Riley, it feels like the play calls in certain situations have kind of been mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I don't think the offensive line had a great game on last Saturday by any means, but I don't think they were. I thought they competed better than their counterparts on the other side of the football, and they gave you some opportunities. But really, the timing was, and then the plays that you did have, the timing was off. Like it's really hard to point to one thing. It's just a lot of it was never kind of like how it was last year offensively. It wasn't just one position group always playing bad. It was one or multiple position groups playing bad on any given play, and you didn't know which one it was going to be, whether it was the quarterback, or it was the offensive line, whether it was your receivers. Like you didn't know. It felt like that on Saturday. It was just guys were not. That whole offense was not in sync, and I don't know what the issue was and why they looked so unprepared and disconnected, as you said, and dysfunctional. It just did not look like the clean, well-oiled machine that they've looked like the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't know that they're being put in the best situations all the time. Right. So I think you make a really good point there, and Garrett Riley's at points in time he's not getting it done, and he's got to be better as a play caller, as a game plan. Like he's got to do better. I'm not saying you fire the guy tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying at all. But he's got to improve.
Yeah. Because I do think this offense has improved a good bit from last season.
It just – yeah. And I know we went into all of it earlier in the show, but, with all of that stuff still standing, and I don't retract anything that we said, but there was progress. Like the offense did get better because we weren't blowing out bad teams last year, and we are this year. So there is progress on the offensive side of the ball. It's just, unfortunately not where we hoped it would be right now. We're better. We're just not – we're not there yet. Still work in progress.
Absolutely. John mentioned, says, Wesco still is not big and strong, so he gets pressed easily. Yeah, and that's one thing that teams have been doing. They know he's one of the best, arguably the best deep threat on the team. He's one of the fastest players on the team. What do you do with a guy that can run right back by your corners? Well, don't let him run by you.
That's right. Get physical with him. Get physical at the line of scrimmage with him. Throw him off his routes.
Put a hand in his chest at the line. Like a guy as slender and wiry as he is, he's not going to get off press that very easily.
And unfortunately, these corners are big this weekend. They're big.
They have some physical dudes.
They got some big cornerbacks, 6'1", 6'2", 190. Like there's some big, long cornerbacks. So look for them to do some of that to Wesco this weekend as well.
Yep. That's kind of been the MO. And I think when Wesco got in and limited snaps against Georgia, they did that. And that's kind of been a thing that the teams that feel confident in their corners, that's what they have done to him. And they're going to, Pitt's going to do that next week. They're as aggressive as anybody in press man. They think their corners can cover, Jeremiah Smith. So they play with utmost confidence defensively. So it doesn't get much easier. I mean, South Carolina, their corners are physical.
Yep.
Their defensive backfield in general, like they're going to get hands on you and make you uncomfortable and not really let you run your routes as crisply as you want to. So I mean, again, this is going to be this is the next litmus test for these receivers. They did not pass it well last week, and some of that was their fault, some of it wasn't, but still, They have to be better.
Right.
But we'll see what they do on Saturday. Isaac Smith talking about bringing in a third linebacker. I wouldn't hate it.
I'd really like to see it just given a shot.
Yeah. John says, what are your thoughts on this? JP's from Clemson Insider, Jason Priester says, maybe it's time for Dabo to put Wes upstairs so he can see things better. I think it's a good idea. I mean, again, I'm up for anything at this point because this defense should not be playing as poorly as they are. And
they're I'm with you, man.
Wes being on the field, like he's not like when you watch him. I mean, he's the guy sitting with the tablet, and he's in the headset, and he's calling the plays, but he's not the one that's getting after these guys. He's not doing all the things that Brent Venables was doing when he was at Clemson, and that's not necessarily a problem. It's not how Wes is as a coach. So his position coaches are the guys that are laying in. Nick Eason and Mickey Kahn, like those are the guys that are having to get after these dudes more than Wes. And so it's like, well, at a certain point, like he's very analytical, and he's not really a super effective just player coach where he's going to get in your face and wake you up and get you to play better. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. Again, you're at the luxury of trying stuff because at this point your season is not. The goals you had in front of you are not really attainable, other than potentially winning the closer, and finishing the regular season strong. So. I wouldn't be. I haven't heard anything about them actually potentially doing that, but I wouldn't be against it. Isaac says, "Was Wes upstairs when we had Venables? Can't remember. I believe so. I'm not actually.
He was an analyst.
Yeah, he was an analyst.
So, I don't know if he was up in the booth. I don't know where he was, honestly, but I know
he wasn't allowed to be on the. Well, no, I feel like I saw him at times.
They can be in the booth, right? As analysts?
They can be in the booth, but I was trying to think about whether. Yeah, I don't think he wasn't on the field.
I don't think he was on the field. He was probably up in the booth, I would assume.
Yeah.
I don't
know. Yeah. You don't really see. Though, like when they show, Tony Elliott was up in the booth as an offensive coordinator, but you never really saw the defensive. Analysts all that much. So I'm not actually, I can't remember. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Austin's in the chat. Our resident Louisville fan, he says, "What's up, guys? Go Cards!" Shout out to your Cards.
Yeah, congratulations, man. Good game. You guys deserve the win. Yeah, definitely outplayed us.
Yep,
embarrassed us in the Valley. So. That's a tough pill to swallow, but hats off to you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for showing back up, man. Appreciate you. Love for you to stick around for the rest of the season.
Martin asks a good question. He says, "Can you guys explain the path to the ACC title game?" So, you're sitting at 5. You're sitting at 5-1 right now. Obviously, there are still 2 undefeated teams in the league in SMU and Miami, and the fact that they have a win over a team you lost to, so you would potentially need one of them to lose twice. Now, ideally, from what I understand, I think if both Miami and SMU lose, it's not necessarily the loss to Louisville doesn't matter, because when it's a 3-way tie, it's strictly conference record of your opponents.
Yeah.
So it's not like I don't believe it's a common. They go to common opponents unless it's a 2-way tie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right about that. So
I think best case scenario for you is for both of them to lose a game.
Yeah, I think that's the only realistic
And
scenario.
make it a 3-way tie.
Because neither team is going to drop 2 games.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. But if you could, I guess it's more probable.
Yeah.
Than one of them dropping 2 games for both of them to drop a game. Now, do I believe that's going to happen? No. So the path is bleak to the ACC championship game. Obviously, we have no control over it. Clemson's got to focus on getting out of Blacksburg with a win, and then beating Pitt as well. Obviously, we got to win out our ACC schedule, or it really won't matter. But yeah.
Yeah, Johnson. Yeah, you need the best thing would be for one of them to lose 2 games, but if not, which isn't very likely. So I think the only other possible way is without it coming down to a Louisville tiebreaker would be for it to be a 3-way tie with all of them having 1 loss, because then I don't think that Louisville game matters. It's just all about conference record of your opponents, combined conference record of your opponents.
Yep.
Or win percentage, I should say, because they have to describe it as win percentage because sometimes games get canceled and all that. So, yes. Johnson, anybody can be on the field now. There's no limits on.
There's no restrictions.
But we were talking about with Wes, like back in 2021 or
that's before. That's when they could only have 11 on-field coaches.
Yeah, including the head coach.
Yeah.
Then Austin says, so if Miami Clemson tie, the Louisville game could decide who goes to the championship game. Yeah. So if Miami were to lose a game and SMU is in, they win out. Say SMU wins out, then and it's just Miami and Clemson with 1 loss. Miami would go because they have the win over Louisville.
Yeah, the common opponent would get them in.
Yeah. That is how that works. And I don't. And they. Well, okay. Of course, that also assumes Clemson wins out. So the Virginia Tech game is also a common opponent, but that wouldn't matter because if you've won out, then both teams would have a win over Virginia Tech. It would come down to that Louisville game.
Yeah, and Miami. Let's see who they got. Who they have left?
I believe they have Georgia
Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. That's their 3 conference opponents left.
Maybe Mario will forget to kneel the ball this weekend. That would be great.
Yeah, that's right. Hopefully, maybe Mario will go do a Mario thing and do some weird stuff.
I think Cam Ward has made that team Mario proof in late game situations.
Because the dude can literally just score anytime he wants to. Miami would have probably lost 3 games by now, at least, without Cam Ward. More probably. But the amount of games that dude has come from behind and won, it's crazy. Your future Heisman winner for sure.
He's trending that way.
SMU plays Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. I don't see the losses, man. I just don't. I really don't. I know we're trying to, spin the web of how we somehow get back into the ACC championship. It ain't happening. It's just not.
I don't think so either.
Unfortunately, but. Got nobody to blame but ourselves. We did it. We controlled our own destiny. We would have been in, and we didn't take care of business.
John asks, is Haynes King back? Yeah, that's a good question because he didn't play.
That's a good question. I do not know.
He didn't play last or 2 weeks ago.
They got no shot if he's not back.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't.
I don't think they got a great shot if he's there, but they definitely don't have a shot if he's not.
So that's a good question. I'm not actually sure. I hope so. I would like that to be
Yeah.
I obviously want things to break Clemson's way, but
Yeah, I mean, naturally.
the likelihood is
I'm not rooting for Clemson to lose the rest of the season because I'm mad about the Louisville game.
Yeah. Martin says 11-2 would still be a good season. Yeah, but that's the thing. We don't feel very confident about this team, reaching that benchmark.
I don't know that 11-2 is in the cards for this team.
It's hard to see this team just from not dropping a game based on what we know right now and what we know about and have seen from this team.
Yeah,
they have the talent to do it. Like they could, like they have more. They have a better roster than the rest of their schedule and potentially whoever they play in a bowl game. But we've seen them play two teams. Two of the two best teams on their schedule. They went and lost to.
Yeah.
And only one of them definitively had better players than you. So it's like, well, I don't know, and neither game was close. That's the hard part. Like especially about the Louisville game is like there was nothing fluky about it. Like there was nothing we could excuse about that loss and say, oh, we turned the ball over a bunch of times, or this freak thing happened. Or they had a freak tip pass for a pick six. No, Louisville just played sound fundamental football. They ran the ball extremely well.
Yeah.
They were special on special teams and they exploited you. They got stops, and by the time it was by the time you actually had things go your way in the third, and late in the fourth quarter, and you started moving the ball and scoring points, you were down 3 scores, and they were perfectly fine with letting you chew up as much clock as possible. So like, that's the sad part is like there's nothing that we could say to be like, okay, this was a blip in the radar for what this team is. It was like, no, they played you straight up and flat out manhandled you.
Yeah. They outcoached you. They out executed you. They just flat out beat you. It wasn't like the Duke game, to kick off the season last year where you go fumble the ball 4 times.
Right. Like we were like,
you could explain that
worse
than that. You fumble the ball 4 times in the red zone. You throw a bad pick. It just ball wouldn't bounce right. It's just tough day, right? Turn the ball over a bunch of times. It wasn't that.
You finished the game with no turnovers.
Yeah, you didn't turn the ball over at all. You just got beat. Yep. They had a better plan, and they came in and executed it, and there was nothing that Clemson could do about it. They literally put our offense in a box for 3 quarters outside of the first touchdown drive in the first quarter. Outside of that drive, our offense was in a box for 3 quarters. And I truly do think in the fourth quarter, Louisville was just more than happy to just sit back and let us dink and dunk down the field and chew up 6 minutes of clock at a time. They were more than happy to do that.
And they just made plays in the key swings in the game. They made the play. Like you score that touchdown to go up not to go up, but to cut the lead to 26-14.
Right.
Kick an onside kick. Whether or not you actually recovered is what it is. You still have to go and get a stop. Like, you still have a chance at that moment in the game. And what does Louisville do? Stretch play.
First play.
50 Isaac Brown to the house. Yeah. And you could hear a pin drop in Death Valley. You could tell on television how quiet it was.
Yeah.
Well, until they started booing because of but of course they had been booing. But like that was the dagger. Like literally, figuratively, literally, they put you to sleep. Like even Isaac Brown did the sleep celebration in front of your student section. Like it's a tough look, man. It's a tough look.
Rough. You earned it. Clemson earned it.
Yep. Just no backbone in the key moments of the game. and that was the most disappointing. They fought. Like I don't think you never saw Clemson give up, but
No, I mean they didn't give up, but there's really nothing they could do.
It's too little, too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't want to end it on a negative note. This is we're supposed to be on to Virginia Tech. We were talking about Virginia Tech.
Yeah. On to the next. The next.
All right, let's do a couple more and then get on out of here. Jay says I'm still shocked by the lack of urgency. Yeah,
it was certainly puzzling. The pace of play was shocking, for sure.
Anything about the? I don't see anything about the Virginia Tech game. I don't, because we were supposed to wrap up the Louisville game, and then we got on a tangent.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
All right, I think that's going to do it. I think.
All right, guys. 2 hours into the show. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Still got 25 people here in the live chat. I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but if you haven't already, please hit that like button for us. Subscribe. We really do appreciate it. Sports Talk Austin says, "I'm sorry, guys, about that." Hey, look, man. Your team earned the win.
Right.
Enjoy it. Because we would be enjoying the win if we would have beat you guys. So no harm, no foul. You guys came in and out-executed and out-coached the Clemson Tigers.
Man, they owed us one.
You earned that win, and what a way to get your first win against the Clemson Tigers in Death Valley, night game. Like, unfortunately for us, it's memorable for all the wrong reasons, but for Louisville, it's memorable for all the right reasons. So hats off to you, man. Keep stopping by. Check in with us throughout the season. Appreciate you for stopping in. Clemson, Martin says Clemson over Virginia Tech will make things better. Hey, winning cures all, right, Martin?
Yeah.
At least it'll feel better in the moment. Still questions, big picture, but it'll certainly feel better to get a win on Saturday. So hopefully we can make that happen. Thanks, guys, so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been fun. Another great episode in the books. Again, keep in mind, if you guys would like to do a call-in portion, just drop it in the comment section below this video when we log off of here. Let us know if you would like us to do that. We'd be more than happy to bring it back. And also keep in mind our 100th episode of the All In Show is quickly approaching. So give us some ideas of what you guys would like to see, something special for the 100th episode of the All In Show. It's crazy that we're almost there, but we are a few short episodes away from hitting that 100 mark. So looking for your guys' creativity and your input on what you would like to see us do to celebrate that 100th episode. So don't put it in the live chat. Wait until we log off, come back to the video, and put it in the comment section. But with all of that said, really do appreciate you guys. See you guys on Saturday for the post-game live video. Until then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.